Welcome back, folks. This is Shane. In today's video, I'm going to explain why I purchased this ND filter. There's two main reasons. One, so I don't get judged online for having less than the optimum amount of background blur. That's sarcasm, by the way. And two, it means I can also set the shutter speed so it doesn't look as kind of robotic when I move my hand across the screen here. So odds are, if you've ever shot outside, you probably run most of your lenses down at, say, f3.5 or 4 or higher, right? So this will allow you to run it at the minimum aperture, allowing you to get maximum background blur. So we're going to see whether or not this works. This cost me less than $50 here in Australia, so I'm keen to give this a shot. This is my first official test of the Gobe ND filter, and yeah, I'm keen to put this on. So I'm going to set up the camera for the settings that I hope to use, and then we're going to see whether or not I can actually get that out of this and just how it looks. So within the box, we get this tin, and I can see that because I've put this in front of the lens in this P automatic mode, that everything's dimmed. So another advantage to the ND filter is that won't become a problem. So inside of here, we get this. Right now I have my lens running at f1.7 and it's just completely blown out with the ISO set to 200. Let's try it now with this ND filter. I'm just going to apply it to the front of the lens here, just screws on, and I'll show how many steps we get here from light to dark. Now, just putting this on already, I can see a massive difference. I can actually see myself in the view, but we can turn this and make it far darker. So there's a real fine line between going too dark and having it set perfectly. Now, at least on the exposure here, it looks like I've got good exposure. Let me just check. Everything looks pretty good on screen, so I'm hoping that shooting now at 180-degree shutter with the ISO at 200 and the lens at f1.7, it should hopefully look pretty good. I'm going to step it up now to ISO 400, which has increased the amount of light again. So I'm going to wind this down even further, see if I can find the sweet spot. Oh, there we go. So that's ISO 400, which is technically the native ISO, I think, in Cine V, which is what I'm shooting with right now. And I'm shooting at 25 frames per second with the 180-degree shutter rule. And this is how that looks. So I'm going to just unscrew this again. There's nothing there whatsoever. Up next, we're checking out how the ND filter will work with this 25mm f1.7 lens. So check out the background blur. I have the camera running on full auto mode, so it's set to the P setting in video mode, and this is how that looks. And I can see there's a little bit of background blur back there, but I reckon we'll probably be able to get some more with this and get a little bit more of that street cred. So let's give it a go. This is the Panasonic 25mm f1.7 with the ND filter on. I can see from my exposure, everything looks good. The background blur is definitely there, and the shutter speed is running at 180 degrees. So it should all look pretty natural. Shooting at 25p, being that I'm in Australia. Now, how does the background blur look in comparison? I'll overlay some side by side so you can see if there's much of a difference. Now, depending on the lens you use will drastically change how much background blur you get, but being that this lens kind of gives you quite a bit anyway, I'm not certain how this will look until I see the AB, and I'll comment on that once I get back home. But I have a feeling the focus should be working okay, and you can probably see lots of flies. Man, it kills me out here. Why do I keep coming back? One of the tests I always wanted to see on these ND filter videos was the fact that once you have it set up for the day outside, can you just leave it like that and then set everything back to auto? So I've got the ND filter set exactly the same way for this 25mm lens that you just saw it before, except now I'm letting the camera do the work. And it's in P mode, which is the auto mode, and the sun is far brighter now, and it looks like the exposure has compensated. So I'm just going to test the motion blur now as well, see if it still looks as natural as before. So this is with none of the manual settings, other than manually setting the ND filter. So I have a feeling this should look pretty good. Whether the Panasonic autofocus is doing its job or not is another story, but how's the background blur now? Are we getting that sort of compression in the background? I'll turn it off and set it all back to auto now, and we'll see how we go. And lastly, this is just back to automatic mode on the camera using the 25mm f1.7 without the ND filter. So how does the motion blur look now? As a flock of birds just landed in the tree there. So yeah, hopefully it still looks okay. It's usable, absolutely, but I have a feeling it's still gonna look better with this, even in automatic mode. So one last time, I'll swap it back. What I'm gonna do now is take all the footage home, have a quick look, and I'll assess what I've seen, some of the comparisons with the ND filter on and off, both in auto and manual mode, and I'll give you my final thoughts. Now, I've just had a chance to review the footage on my large monitor, and I gotta tell you, there was some pros and cons about this unit. So starting with what I like about it the most, it works really well. I think it almost felt like the camera had way more dynamic range, and also that background compression was there as well. So if you're looking for the background blur and you're going to be shooting at the beach or outside on a bright sunny day, this will definitely do the job. And if your lens has a different filter thread size than the 46mm, you can buy larger ones. So there's that option as well. One of the interesting things about this ND filter, and I'm not sure if they're all the same or not, is you can turn this perpetually. So that means it will just keep spinning. You can go from maximum to minimum just by continually turning the ND filter. So I gotta say, like right before the maximum and the minimum, it's unusable. But anyway, after that, it's very, very usable depending on your needs. Now, there's nothing to say you can't stop your camera down to f2 or 3, right? It's just that if you want to get the maximum aperture on your lens, like that 1.7, then I can get it by using the ND filter at a sort of darker setting to offset that. But if you go too far, you will see some vignetting in the corners, and I noticed that as well. I had it a little too far in one spot in the video. But that said though, anywhere other than all the way near the maximum or anywhere near the minimum, it worked extremely well. So yeah, overall I'm really wrapped with this. And in the box as well, we get a little lens cleaner for it as well, which is fantastic. And if I register this product, they plant a tree, is my understanding as well. So if that's important to you, it says register your tree here, and you get a little serial number here that you can, or little code you can put in, and they'll plant a tree. So I think that's pretty cool as well. Overall, I'm wrapped with this for 50 bucks. They always say with ND filters, you get what you pay for, but like anything, especially in other industries as well, there's some stuff that really stands out as being great that doesn't have to cost the earth. And if you're an enthusiast or you just want to take this, you know, on a trip with you somewhere, look at it, it's great. The only other thing too, that kind of bummed me out is I can't put my lens hood back on. So yeah, that's a little bit of a downer, but you can, I think, buy a larger lens hood now to hook it up or something, but it is what it is, you know. It's one of those things, a small trade-off for great video quality. Recently, I actually filmed a friend of mine at the beach, and she's gorgeous, and I really wish I had this on there to sort of separate her from the background. It was so bright and so sunny outside that day that I really wish I had this on here. So yeah, I'm looking forward to making more videos outdoors with it, and in control conditions like this, probably don't need it. Thanks for watching, catch you soon, links will be below.